Welcome to Redvee TV, supported by Chapel House Cars for the 2024 season. On a monumental day for the club, as they have introduced match payments for the women's team for the very first time. Kevin, great news.
It certainly is. It's a step in the right direction. And I think it was almost inevitable that it would come. But it is great to see us to take that step, really.
We're going to give our full reaction on tomorrow's Redvee TV show. But Kev, while we're here, we may as well interview some of the main characters of the club to get their thoughts on it.
Excellent.
I'm going to leave you with the mic, and I'm going to be the expert cameraman.
I'll do that. Happy days. We are pleased to welcome Saints CEO Mike Rush to Redvee TV today. Mike, thanks for joining us.
No worries.
It's a monumental day for women's rugby in St Helens, as the club has announced that first team players will receive match payments for the first time during the 2024 season. You have said that this has been a process that the club has worked on a lot. This was never just about pay. It was about building a system and putting the right professional things in place. Is that why the time is right now for the club to introduce payments?
Look, if I'm being honest, and I've been honest with the girls on more than one occasion, it's probably come quicker than I expected. Part of that is if you like a market force, because when you've got York and Alts in contracts and Wigan speaking to girls within our own system about moving across for X, Y and Z, then market forces dictate. I think where we are pleased is that we've got our medical provision right. Jade, who's the physio, who looks after them. We've got S&C. The women have got GPS, just like the academy and the men, so we can track loads. They get fed post-training through NutriPrep, a club partner, like the men do. So there was a number of building blocks that we wanted to get to. Is it perfect? No, because the club, for a long time now, we've been looking to build a new training ground, and we'll only get to perfection at this club when we get that over the line. And that's not because there's anything particularly wrong with where we are, it's just not big enough. The actual content, the gym, if we only had the one team like it was probably built for 15 years ago, it'd be fine. So we'll only get to perfection when that's finished. But it's a step in the right direction, and as I said to others, it's some of these girls, if we're playing on a Friday night at 5:30 as a curtain raiser, have to book half a day off work. If it just gives them peace of mind that they're not out of pocket, then it's a nice and it's a good start. But I'm with Eamon, it's not going to dramatically change for the next 5-10 years until there is investment from external, whether that be broadcast partners, big sponsors, whatever it is, to take the game to the next level. In exactly the same way that we've seen the women's football grow. It does take time.
You mentioned the reward of match payments is a starting point for the club. What impact do you think the introduction of these payments will have on women's rugby league, not just in this town, but across the country?
I actually, the girls are very committed, very dedicated. We've got a real good bunch here at St Helens Rugby League. I don't see it being a massive... We're not going to see performance go through the roof because training is still the same. Training it has been and will always be optional. Because, again, if you're a self-employed individual and you've got a work available, which means you've got to work away Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so you can't train Tuesday, we understand. And that's no different from an academy player that might get a good apprenticeship, like a Matty Lees or an Adam Swift. I remember when they were doing their apprenticeships. They have phenomenal apprenticeships with international companies. We had to be flexible. I think what it does is it recognises that we recognise them, and I think it recognises that some of them have to make commitment on game days and others, and they're not out of pocket by representing this club.
You look at possibly parents watching this, young children watching this. What pathways does the club have in place for the future of women's rugby league in this town?
Yeah, so we've got an under-19s at the minute, which Jodie Cunningham sort of heads up. We were really lucky. We had Craig Richards, the former England women's head coach, sort of lead us on our initial direction. Craig and Dec Harbin are now in control of the reserves. So we've had a really good foundation. I think conquering the under-19s and getting a proper system in place will then lead to us going at the 16s and 15s. But there's stepping stones that we need to take. What we don't want to be doing is suddenly taking 10, 15 girls out of Thatterweath Crusaders and calling them saints and then them not wanting to play in the community game. There needs to be a lot of joined up thinking. I echo Eamon's comments earlier. The RFL, the governing body, Rugby League Commercial, need to sit down with leading figures in the game and get a system that's going to work, not just in the short term, but in the long term.
For you, what does the future hold for not only the St Helens women's team, but for the women's game as a whole?
I think we want to be competitive. I think, no disrespect, but Australia and New Zealand are a little bit way ahead at the minute. And so all we can do is challenge the girls, challenge the game to improve our standards in the hope that then we can, try and catch Australia and New Zealand, because at the minute they're some way ahead of us.
Yeah. And finally from you, if you could give the women's team, the women's squad, one message on this historic day, what would it be?
I have no idea. That's way too deep for me, isn't it? Take your boots off before you come in the change rooms. Same as the kids get told, take your boots off.
Well, we'll leave it there. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Worries. No worries.
We are chatting with Canadian international and Women's Super League legend, there's only one, Shanny Crowl.
Well, right.
See, we do our research sometimes. The news today isn't just about the setup that the club has put in place, but the just reward for your efforts on and off field. Yeah. How are you feeling to be able to have that recognised at the top end of Women's Super League in this country?
It's just a phenomenal feeling, because coming from being a really high athlete in Thatto Heath and winning loads of Challenge Cups and things, but yet breaking your ankle in potholes and landing in dog poo, to come to play at stadiums and now being paid, it's just honourable. And to be the first women at St Helens to be paid, and like my heritage number 013, it means the world to me. At one point I did think I was too old to be getting it. I thought it was going to be the next generation, and we were trying to do it for the next generation, but to have that payment plan in place is just phenomenal, and I'm so proud to be part of this club.
Excellent stuff. You've referenced it before, that Saints, it's more than just a squad, it's a family. It must make it even sweeter that this has been made with this group that you're with at the moment.
Yeah, it's something else. The team players were all like family. We're played together for years, but it's the coaching staff as well, even to the chefs behind the scene. Everyone gets on with everyone. Everyone treats each other with respect, and they acknowledge everyone for who they are. People have been thrown money by other clubs, and even last year when we weren't getting the payment plan, they were throwing money and match fees at a lot of people, because we've got a great squad of players. And just for people to stick around and wait for the right time with St Helens has just been good, and it just shows how tight we are as a group.
It certainly does. If you could go back and tell the 7-year-old who was moving from Canada to live in England that one day she'd be paid for playing rugby league, what do you think she'd say?
What are you lying for? Why are you lying? Yeah, I just never thought it would come. And it's been a hard process, but it's been a good process, and just a journey that I've enjoyed every moment of. And now that we're here, it just makes the season more exciting. So I can't wait to get into it.
Good stuff. And finally, where do you see the next big progression for the women's game? That could be on field, it could be off field. Where do you see that? Possibly off field. It's hard because we're getting all these NutriPreps and gym memberships and protein, so we get a lot of stuff off field. I think taking it to the actual professionalism, it's not just semi-professional, not just match payments. I think taking it to the next level is in now contracts secure in when you're injured. I know we get medical care and all that, and help throughout, but not being a full-time athlete without the other job. I would like to be a full-time athlete, and it would be great for women's sports, just like the football and stuff. So fingers crossed. Yeah, that's the aim, isn't it? Yeah. Shanny, thanks for your time.
There's only one.
There's only one. We are now speaking to Saints and England flying winger Leah Burke. Leah, the news that the Saints women's first team are receiving match payments for the first time in their history, I mean, it's nothing short of massive, isn't it?
Yeah, it's massive. And to even think that we can play rugby and now get paid for it is crazy to even consider. Like, where we started with Saints back in 2018 to where it is now is huge. And yeah, it's exciting to think that if we run it on that pitch, we get a bit of money for it. And I just think it's a bonus. It's just a benefit of how hard we work. And it's just crazy to even think that that's going to happen this year.
Yeah, it is a reflection on how hard the women work, and it's come a long way from you starting playing in 2018, before that inaugural season. Is this the most significant change you've seen in rugby league throughout your career?
Yeah, I think so, but I think with each season something gets better, and I think the club are really good at helping support the women's team and put it on the platform that it deserves. I think we do hold ourselves to a professional standard, and now we can technically say we are semi-professional because we get that financial benefit for it. So I think women's rugby league grows and grows each year, and it's scary how fast it grows, but it's exciting at the same time.
Yeah, that leads me on nicely to asking you what your hopes are for the women's game over the next few years, because the sky's the limit, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And like, who even would have thought that the Women's Challenge Cup final would be at Wembley last year? Like, that's crazy to even think, and it's going to be there for the next couple of years. And I think you can't take a step back from that. You can only step forward from that. So I don't even know where the women's game is going to be in a couple of years. Hopefully, I don't know, grand final, similar time, same weekend as the men, wherever that may be. I don't know what could be next for the women. I'm sure lots of people have got lots of different things going on in the background, and it'll definitely grow. So yeah, we'll see where it gets to.
It is exciting times, isn't it? We're going to finish on a personal note for yourself. You suffered a season-ending ACL injury. Can you let us all know how it's progressing? What are your hopes for the year? When are you hoping to be back?
Yeah, it's going really well. I'm now 8 months post-op, so they're saying the aim is 9 to 12 months, and I'm hoping that it'll be the closer to the 9 months rather than the 12 months. So yeah, I'm excited to get back on the pitch, and hopefully, don't like putting a date on it, but hopefully sometime soon and not too far away.
Excellent stuff. Leah, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
We've got with us Saints number 9, England international, RFL match official. Is there anything she can't do? It's Tara Jones. Tara, first of all, can we get your thoughts on the news that St Helens have introduced match payments for the women's team for the first time?
Yeah, it's special, isn't it? You know, it's just a special moment for us as a group of players, individuals, and us as a club. It's the next step in the right direction for the sport in general and the club and women within rugby league. Yeah, it's a special moment and something that'll stick with us.
Definitely so. On a personal level, you have so much history with this club. When it comes to the heritage numbers, you proudly were number 1. You scored the first try in the first ever Women's Challenge Cup final at Wembley. When you started playing, did you ever envisage reaching the point where you would receive payment for playing rugby league?
No, absolutely not. I didn't even envisage that I'd have them kind of memories and them things that you've just mentioned to my name. Because as a young girl, when I first started playing, I played with a boys team at Crossfields, and then when I turned 12 I had to go and find a girls team, and when I had to make that transition, you know, things weren't that great within girls rugby. There wasn't many teams around. The team that I managed to find, you know, I was probably the main consistent one. There was only a handful of players week in, week out. We didn't have a full team. Fixtures were very fair and few between, and when we did play they weren't that great. So I was kind of falling out with it, out of playing. I didn't think it would actually be able to continue. You know, the opportunities were very fair and few between. So that's why I went into officiating the game. So fast forward, you know, 10, 15 years to now sit here and say I'm playing for a great club like St Helens, and then a few years into that journey, we're now being paid to play. Yeah, it's something I never thought I'd be sat here saying.
Yeah, I read an interview with Pip Birchall, and she said how at one game they turned up, the gates were locked, and they had to ask someone to if they could climb over the back garden fence. So the game's definitely come a long way, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I spoke today about when we've been playing on dog poo parks and picking up broken glass, all walking together in a big long line to make sure the pitch is clear, kicking your ball over someone's fence, knocking on the door, asking for it back. Yeah, it's just crazy to now being playing on pitches like this, stadiums like the Totally Wicked, you know, Challenge Cup final last year at Wembley, to comparing it to previous years, you know, you can't put it into words.
Yeah, exactly. And it's important to mention the players and staff who've helped put the club in this position, whether that's from women's teams around, like you mentioned him in the press conference, Eve, Pilks, Haydock and the likes, or early Saints players who might not be involved in the game anymore. It's a fantastic reflection on those who have pioneered rugby league in the town, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I've spoke about how I'm proud of every female player that I've played alongside with currently, previously, or played against. Even females within the sport, whether they stepped on the field or not, that I may not have even met. And they don't even have to be female, you know. Just anybody and everybody that's all stood together and pushed in the right direction for women's sport and women's rugby league. You know, the great coaches we've had Mark Brennan, Dec Hardman, Craig Richards, now Matty Smith, the support from the likes of Eamon McManus and Mike Rush, everybody collectively together, all pushing in the right direction to create these opportunities and days like today where we can now announce payments for playing, and, you know, it'll be people like us, people in the past, people in the future, that will now get it to the next step as well. Yeah,
definitely. How do you think this will improve the women's game going forward? Put more eyes on the game, encourage more girls and women to play, or see stories like your own, and even instead of playing, taking up officiating, getting involved with staff at the club? Just how do you think it will improve the women's game as a whole going forward?
Yeah, like, I've always seen a massive momentum in the game anyway. So on the back of the 2021 World Cup, we've seen a massive increase in girls taking up the sport and more people playing it or officiating it. You know, I've seen that side of it as well, as now more girls officiating the game more than ever. And I think it's only going to continue to grow. And in the future, currently we're talking about match payments and things like that. In the future, you never know, we might be talking about salaries, careers, contracts, things like that, but that's all in the future and steps in the right direction. So if young girls that are currently playing can see that in the future they can go and be a full-time professional rugby league player, why wouldn't they want to continue? Why wouldn't they want to pick up a rugby ball and play? Because that's an ultimate goal, isn't it, as a professional athlete, to go and make it your career. So a little bit jealous, but I absolutely hope it gets there, and I'd be proud if it does.
What a positive note to end on. Tara, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.